Whitworth. This is my third MW writing workshop. And my first two were about my time on Guam during the Vietnam War with my husband. This piece I'm attempting to do is on, it's going to be more of a prologue. These pieces were really a memoir for my family, because I'd like to leave something behind for my nieces and nephews. This piece has been very difficult for me, and so I still consider it a work in progress, but I'd like to share with you the initial piece that I've completed. I also want to thank Sally for the wonderful job she has done in editing our pieces and also in providing technical guidance for different techniques to use in writing. That's been very, very helpful to me. The name of my piece is Transitions. The summer of 1961 was a time of self-examination. I questioned why I had selected this family, this environment, this period of time to be born. What lessons was I here to learn? How were the decisions that face me going to impact my future? Did I matter? Was it selfish to want a me? Northern Maine, a geographically isolated agrarian environment, shaped my youth. The harsh winters and short growing season demanded initiative, hard work, perseverance, and love of the land. I was the oldest of 8 in an Irish Catholic family. Religion formed the backbone for survival spiritually. The priest's dogmatic sermons had most of us going to hell. Who didn't associate with divorced people? Why were only Catholics going to heaven? This religion was not one that I had consciously chosen. It came with the family. The boundaries we were all to follow were specific, as were the consequences if we strayed from the commandments. In my family, my father made all the decisions. We never discussed anything around the supper table. We never questioned him in fear of a slap across the face. We did what we were told. By 1961 financial standards set by the government, we were living below the poverty level. This was below $3,000 a year for a family of 4. The rhythm of family life and structure reflected the times. Music, fashion, institutions, and television extolled virtue, conformity, and the status quo. Debbie Reynolds, Patti Page, Frank Sinatra, and Perry Como crooned slow music about love, marriage, and happiness. Television gave us a black and white image of Father Knows Best, Leave It to Beaver, the Ozzie and Harriet Show. Mothers in cotton house dresses were homemakers, waiting for the man of the house to arrive home and set everything right. Fashion included skirts and dresses for the girls, crew cuts and tucked-in shirts for the boys, hats and white gloves for church service, sports for the boys, home economics for the girls. In cold weather, girls were allowed to wear pants underneath their skirts to school, but had to remove them before classes began. As a teenager, it seemed as if old white men made all the decisions and controlled all positions of authority. Structure and rules were the norm. Feelings were contained. Demonstrative behavior was frowned upon. Like many of my generation, there were no hugs and kisses at home, and I never heard the words, "I love you." It was a time of fear with the Cold War fueling a civil defense drills at school. Inside, we were to get under our desks. Outside, we were to head to the nearest ditch and lay down. The radiation cloud would sweep over the ditch and limit our exposure. We were shown Geiger counters and taught to read how many Roentgens of radiation might be present. The 50s was a time of acceptance, of sameness, and of relative peace. The 60s started out with excitement. The printed word was not the only source of news. We had television and Walter Cronkite. The first presidential debates allowed us to see and hear the candidates instead of just reading about the men and the issues. We had the first Roman Catholic running for president. Excitement was in the air. And In the fall of 1960, the Democratic candidate visited Presque Isle, Maine, about 13 miles from my home. A friend invited me to go with her family to hear Kennedy speak. Afterward, he shook hands with many in the crowd, and I was able to get a scribbled partial autograph. Unlike my view of President Eisenhower, Kennedy was much younger, full of energy, and a dynamic speaker. The air of confidence with which he carried himself and his message of change created hope and enthusiasm. This heralded in a new decade, not only in politics, but in the input of institutional dominance in society. Acceptance of everything this fact was questioned, and a backlash reverberated. Like a pendulum or a tug of war, the harder the push to maintain the status quo, the harder the pull in the opposite direction. It was a decade of paradoxes and a decade of extremes. It was a time of change and a time of sameness, a time of institutional control versus individual expression. Fashion, music, and television began to slowly reflect individual expressionism. Skirts got shorter, we had minis and hot pants. The more social unrest, the shorter the clothing and the longer the hair. Television telecast in color brought us Rowan and Martin's Lapin and the Smothers Brothers, which questioned societal values and mores, the government's decision to step up the Vietnamese War, and the control that the church, educational institutions, and big business had on our daily lives. Television brought war into our living rooms every night, along with violence erupting over civil rights. Music reflected the mood: rock and roll, psychedelic rock, protest songs, Beatlemania, and Motown. It was uplifting and energizing. We were a nation fighting for the status quo at home while fighting for radical change abroad. A nation fighting to survive unrest and division within while promoting unrest in Vietnam. It was this decade that I attended high school and college. Decisions had been made that would affect my future. In 1961, I was 14. I had graduated from the 8th grade. My anxiety over the transition to high school was heightened by the decision over the course of study I would pursue. I spent time alone with my thoughts, fears, and lots of tears. The blue pale paint on the bedroom wall was marred by peeling wallpaper. The damaged plaster exposed the wooden laths used in the farmhouse's wall construction. Unable to sleep, I gazed at the damage caused by rain, trickling through faulty flashing where roof met the chimney. Moonlight, millers, and mosquitoes entered through the hole in the upper pane of the left-hand window. The millers and mosquitoes circled the ceiling light bulb. The large room had a walk-in closet with a rod that held a few summer clothes, along with a trunk filled with winter woolens and mothballs. A dressing table with a large mirror set between the two windows. My bed my sister and I shared faced the two windows above the porch overlooking the dirt roadway. My side of the bed faced the door. My sister's fear of the dark allowed me to be the buffer from any outside intrusion. For me, that summed up one of my roles in the family. The porch had been enclosed in the 1930s when my oldest paternal aunt had been diagnosed with tuberculosis. It served as her bedroom in the summer with the windows raised for fresh air. She died at the age of 13. The porch now served as a playroom in the summer and closed off in the winter. On the rare occasion that we had a few weeks of heat and humidity, my parents would use it as a bedroom. The entrance outside was secured with a large butcher knife wedged into a space in the door frame. This deterrent against outside intruders was as effective as I was in protecting my sister. The other porch exit was into the back hall, where stairs led to the front bedroom and the entrance to the apartment where my grandmother lived, and downstairs through a door to the only bathroom in the house. The bathroom served as a corridor that inhibited its true purpose. Neither door was ever locked. This public access way mirrored the lack of personal privacy and boundaries within the